today we're going to be stretching out our hamstrings, shoulders, and opening the chest in order to work towards a good down dog with good form. We're going to start out today's practice with mostly just doing stretches, not as much flowing in and out of poses. And then after that, we're going to work towards a sun salutation A. And I think that this is really exciting because once you can do a down dog, it opens up many other yoga poses, and sun salutation A is a very common flow, often mixed in with a lot of yoga practices. So I'm very excited. So we can get started just by standing with your feet hip distance apart, connecting to your breath, inhaling your hands up overhead. Exhale, palms together, and release. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And I want you to notice the calmness in your body before we start. And remember that you can always come back to this. And learning new poses can be difficult, but it's important to always try. And you can always take a step back into a resting pose like child's pose or even forward fold if you don't feel like you're ready to do anything that I'm showing you. All right, so continuing to breathe, inhale up. Exhale. On this next one, really notice having energy all the way through your fingertips and opening the chest, leaning back a little. A couple more. All right, on our next one, we're gonna inhale, hands up overhead, then hinge at the hips and start to go into a forward fold. Now this is my first forward fold of the day, so my hamstrings are definitely tight. Just feel it out, find what feels good in your body, maybe sway from side to side, pull yourself with the backs of your legs. We're gonna hang out here for a while because it's very important to be stretching the hamstrings before you go into downward dog. You can also bend your knees as much as you need, as long as you're still feeling a stretch in the back of your legs. On your next inhale, you're gonna straighten your back for a halfway lift, and exhale, release back down. And from here, we can sweep hands up overhead, and exhale, hands at heart center. Now we're gonna go through this again, except this time, we're gonna have a wide leg stance. You know, maybe instead of as wide as your legs can go, try and do just about the width of the yoga mat here. All right, so we're gonna take a few breaths. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale. All right, on this one, we're gonna inhale our hands up overhead, hinge at the hips, and forward fold with a wide stance. And again, you can move side to side, finding what feels good. Try and release any tension in the neck by shaking the head, releasing through the spine. We're only here for a few more breaths, so try and deepen into it. All right, you can release the hands near the mat, and you're gonna bring your right hand to your left foot or ankle or leg as much as you can and open up to the left side, stacking the shoulders one over another for a spinal twist. On your next exhale, release gently. Walk your hands over to the other side. Inhale, twist. Shoulders stacked. With your gaze up to the ceiling where you want your twist to go. Alright, exhale, release. Now you can shake out the legs a little bit if you need it here. And try and notice if your hamstrings feel any different from when you started your wide-legged forward fold after those twists. Now without lifting up, we're just going to heel toe our toes back into a nice forward fold. And I can even notice how much my legs have opened up this far just by doing a couple forward folds, and these are going to help us out greatly when we move into downward dog. All right, from here, I'm gonna ask you to bring your hands flat on the ground. You can have a great bend in your knees, that's fine. And then we're gonna step our feet back. I'm gonna turn, and we're gonna move our way into tabletop position with wrists underneath the shoulders and knees underneath the hips. And a neutral spine to start. On your next inhale, you're gonna drop the belly, lift the chin for our cow pose. And on your next exhale, tuck the chin, round the back for cat. Inhale, cow pose. And exhale, cat. Now, you can keep taking these at your own pace with your own breath. And like I've said many times, moving with the breath is very important. And this is a pose where you can really feel that. And as you continue, I'm just going to point out some things. Here in cow pose, we're opening through the chest, which is going to be very important in downward dog. And also in this position, we have our hands planted and fingers wide spread, the same as downward dog. One thing that many people struggle with downward dog is pain in the wrists for the fingers, or too much pressure on the arms. So we're going to try and focusing through balancing between our feet and balancing between our hands, but moreover, to keep pressure out of our wrists, we're going to really dig into our fingers. So you can practice that now by planting your fingers with a lot of strength, a lot of energy into the mat to keep some weight out of those wrists. I know I kind of stopped doing cat-cows, but hopefully you continued. And from here, we're going to step our feet back into a plank just for a few seconds here, a few cycles of breath. On your next exhale, with your elbows close to your ribs, you're going to lower as slowly as you can. And all the way down to the mat and release. Now that is called a chaturanga, releasing from a plank down onto the mat. And that will be in Sun Salutation A, so that's just a preview of what's to come. From here, we're gonna move into baby cobra pose with your hands again underneath your shoulders and a lift through your abdomen. You're gonna lift up, bringing the shoulders back and opening the chest, and exhale, release. Now you don't wanna be pushing as far as you can at first because you don't wanna crunch the lower back. All right, so baby cobra pose again on your next inhale. And exhale, release. Inhale up. And exhale, release. Now from here, we're gonna push back up into our plank. And we're gonna slowly, slowly walk our feet up to meet our hands, making sure we notice the stretch in our calves, the stretch in our hamstrings as we get closer and closer. And from here, we're just gonna go back into forward fold. On your next inhale, go up for a halfway lift. Exhale, release. Now from here, as gently as you can, make your way down to the mat to a seated position. All right, your spine nice and tall, your legs stretched in front of you, feet flexed. We're gonna move into a seated forward fold. First, I'm just gonna challenge you to try and keep your posture as you lean forward. See, it's much easier to just collapse through the spine to get that stretch. But once we're gonna be moving into downward dog, you're not gonna be able to bend your spine. The goal is to open through the chest and push your chest through the shoulders. So, just practicing nice posture here, leaning forward as much as you can. And then on your next exhale, you can release into the forward fold. Feeling it through your hamstrings. Trying to sink lower with every exhale. All right, from here we're gonna scoot onto our backs and we're moving into bridge pose. So you can plant the heels right beneath the hips. And from here we're gonna put our hands on the ground. And they're not just gonna lay there, they're gonna be active. Also, again, pushing through the fingertips as we lift through the hips. Remembering to breathe here. You can stay here, or to open the chest even more, you can wiggle the shoulders underneath and find a clasp here. Now this will also lift your hips and give you more of a stretch. A couple more breaths here. And you can unclasp the hands and release the hips back down to the mat. And here, to get back up to our seated position, you can grab the backs of the legs and slowly make your way rolling up. And this also massages out the spine if there's any pain. And from here, we're gonna come back, reverse exactly how we got down to the ground, so into our bug position right here, and try and extend through the feet back into our forward fold. little variation on forward fold that will help open the shoulders a little bit more. We're going to reach our hands behind us, clasping them and then letting it fall. This pushes our chest towards our knees, stretching out the hamstrings more, stretching out the triceps by bringing the hands overhead, and also stretching out the shoulders. If your hands can't reach each other, you could always use a strap here, like so, and slowly work towards bringing them together. Or even just interlacing the fingers, not necessarily the hands. Whatever's comfortable and whatever gives you that good stretch in your arms. All right, so I'll meet you back here. All right, exhale, release down to the mat, and inhale your arms up overhead. And exhale to heart center. Now one more arm stretch before we move into our sun salutation. You're gonna bring your arms up overhead. And on your exhale, move into cactus arms, engaging all the muscles, pressing down, expanding through the fingers. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Pretending as if you're pushing a pencil between your back shoulder blades. Inhale up. Exhale. Press. Inhale up. Exhale. Press. All right. So it's time for sun salutation A. I'll give you a quick preview. We're going to be lifting up, going into a forward fold, stepping back into our plank, using our chaturanga down to the mat, moving into cobra, down, and then that's when we're going to be pressing ourselves up and back into downward dog. All right, it might sound like a lot, but I'm sure that you've got it. We've practiced every move in there. So you can start at the top of your mat and inhale your hands up overhead. And on your exhale, hinge at the hips and release into forward fold. On your next inhale, move into halfway lift. And exhale, release back down to the mat. You can place your hands on the mat and step your feet back out into the plank. Take an inhale here. And on your next exhale, release chaturanga down to the mat. On your next inhale, lift up into cobra. And exhale, release back down to the mat. Here we're going to tuck our toes, keep our hands firm on the mat. We're going to lift the hips up and back into downward dog. Now, I have a lot of points and guidelines for form here. Make sure that you're pushing your chest through the arms to try and flatten your back as much as possible. And your heels don't have to be touching the ground or close to the ground even. And your legs also don't have to be straight. If you're right here and you're working on your form, that's great. A great way to try and move your heels towards the mat and straighten those legs is maybe starting out with a wider base and also pedaling through the heels here. And we're going to be hanging out here for a little while more, just trying to perfect our form and get comfortable with this inversion. Remember, strong through the fingertips, lots of pressure out of the wrist, pedaling through the feet, feeling the stretch in the hamstring. Maybe now you understand all the work we did with forward folds to get ourselves here. Making sure the hips are lifted and your pelvis is turned as much as you can. Take a deep breath and let it out in a big sigh. This is a resting pose used in a lot of yoga flows, and it might seem kind of counterintuitive because your arms are doing a lot of work and your legs are getting a real good stretch here. But
after a while, it does become very comfortable to kind of hang out here for a while. And remember, with every exhale, try to melt the chest towards the legs, pushing through the arms. All right. On your next exhale, you're going to push forward back into plank position. And then from here, we're going to walk the hands up to the feet into forward fold. And then inhale up and hands at heart center. Now that was pretty similar to Sun Salutation A, and hopefully all the poses in there were all right. And now we're just going to move through it, but this time more of a flow. So try and consciously think where your body will be moving with every inhale and exhale. And once we get to downward dog, we will kind of hang out there, take a few breaths there. But while we move into it, it's going to be more flowing with the breath. All right, so starting at the top of your mat, we're going to inhale up overhead and exhale, fold. Inhale for halfway lift and exhale back down to fold, planting the hands, stepping the feet back. Take an inhale here. Exhale, chaturanga. On your next inhale, push up to cobra. Exhale, down to the mat. Take an inhale here. And exhale, push up and back into downward dog. Now you might find that moving into downward dog right here was a lot easier than the first time, so that's great. And as I've said before, practice every day will make all of these poses a lot more accessible to you. Now instead of walking the feet up and back into a forward fold, I'm going to invite you to drop your knees here, move them as wide as the mat, and press back into child's pose. You can just rest here. Hanging out here will probably feel really good because it's a static stretch and a nice rest after all the work that we've done. And this also opens up the chest by melting down to the mat while lifting the shoulders. You can even go onto your fingertips if you want more of a stretch. On your next inhale, come out of it. And you can just find your way to a comfortable seated position. All right, I just wanted to say thank you for doing yoga with me today, and I hope you're as proud of yourself as I'm proud of you, because now with a downward dog in your practice and being able to go through Sun Salutation A with proper form, good balance, and a nice connection to your breath, that will open up a lot more things in yoga for you. And the last thing I have to say is repeating this practice, or even just taking a few moments so that you don't lose any of your flexibility or any of your form on any of these, is most important. So thank you for doing yoga with me today. I hope to see you tomorrow, and namaste.